What if I told you that the biggest transfer gamble in modern football wasn't made on a 25-year-old superstar, but on a 15-year-old boy who didn't even own a pair of proper football boots? Real Madrid, the richest, most decorated club on the planet, looked at this kid and said, him, not a proven star, not a World Cup winner, a teenager from one of the poorest corners of Brazil. Pause. And here's the part that should stop you in your tracks. Real Madrid signed him a full 2 years before he could even play for them. They waited. For him. So today, I want to tell you the real story, not the highlight reels, not the transfer headlines. I want to tell you about the boy behind the name Endrick, the poverty, the pressure, the doubt, and the one decision that changed everything. Pause. Stay with me. Because by the end of this, you're going to understand exactly why Real Madrid took the biggest bet of the decade on a kid from the favela, a boy named. After a website, let's start at the very beginning, with his name, Endrick. It sounds unique, right? Almost like it was designed to become famous one day. But the truth is far more human than that. His parents didn't sit down and craft some destiny-driven name. They actually took it, believe it or not, from a website, a random name generator. That's it. No grand prophecy, no family tradition, just two parents in Taguatinga, a working-class satellite city on the edge of Brasilia, picking a name they liked the sound of. Pause. Taguatinga isn't the Brazil you see in tourism ads. There's no Copacabana beach here, no glamour. It's dust, narrow streets, informal football pitches with more potholes than grass, and a community where every single family is fighting for the same thing, a way out. And that's the world Endrick Felipe Moreira de Sousa was born into on July 21st, 2006. Now, here's something a lot of people don't know. Endrick didn't grow up with a silver spoon or even a proper football. In the early years, his family didn't have the money for boots that fit him. He played barefoot or in shoes that were falling apart on cracked concrete streets. Every kid in that neighborhood dreamed the same dream, because in Brazil, football isn't just a sport, it's survival. It's the one door that might actually open. But what made Endrick different wasn't just talent, it was something deeper. And we're about to get into that. Pause. The fire inside a small body. If you ever watch old footage of Endrick as a kid playing street football, you'll notice something strange. He was small, really small for his age. Coaches who saw him early on didn't always think he had the physical tools to make it. But size never stopped him, because what Endrick had was rage. Not anger at people, rage at the situation, rage at watching his parents struggle, rage at knowing that if he didn't make it in football, the alternative future in a place like Taguatinga could be brutal. Poverty, crime, a life cut short, like it is for so many young men in similar neighborhoods across Brazil. So every time he stepped onto that cracked pitch, it wasn't a game, it was a mission. His father saw it early, that hunger, and made a decision most parents never have the courage to make. He essentially built Endrick's entire childhood schedule around football. Wake up, school, training, repeat. No shortcuts, no days off just for fun. Because in a family with limited resources, football wasn't a hobby anymore. It was the plan. And here's where the story takes its first real turn. Pause. At around age 11, Endrick joined the academy of a small local club before eventually being scouted into bigger structures in Brasilia. And that's when word started to spread, quietly at first, about a kid who could do things with a football that shouldn't be possible for someone his age. But nobody outside Brasilia knew his name yet. That was about to change, in a way nobody could have predicted. Palmeiras comes calling. In Brazilian football, there's a well-known path. If you're a wonder kid from a lower income background with real talent, eventually, one of the giant clubs comes looking. For Endrick, that giant was Palmeiras, one of the most successful clubs in Brazilian history. Palmeiras' scouts had heard the whispers, a kid in Brasilia, dribbling past defenders twice his size, finishing with a composure that looked completely wrong for his age. So they brought him in for trials. Now imagine this for a second. a boy from a poor community in Taguatinga, stepping into one of the most professional academy systems in South America for the very first time. The pressure alone could break most kids. Everything he'd ever wanted, everything his family had sacrificed for, was riding on this one trial. He didn't just pass it, he dominated it. Palmeiras signed him into their youth ranks, and almost immediately, coaches inside the club started saying the same thing behind closed doors. This kid is different. Pause. But here's the twist that a lot of casual fans don't realize. Endrick's rise through Palmeiras' academy wasn't some smooth fairy tale. He was still just a teenager, away from the comfort of his neighborhood, thrown into a high-pressure environment where hundreds of talented kids come in every year, and almost all of them fail to make it to the first team. The dropout rate in academies like this is brutal. For every Endrick, there are hundreds of equally hungry kids who never get their name in lights. So the question became, would he be one of the ones who makes it, or one of the forgotten many? Breaking records before he could even drive. Here's where things start to get wild. Endrick didn't just make it into Palmeiras' first team. He shattered records on the way there. In 2022, at just 15 years old, he became the youngest player to ever score for Palmeiras' senior team. 15. Most kids that age are worrying about school exams. Endrick was scoring goals for one of Brazil's biggest clubs. Pause. And it didn't stop there. He kept breaking age records, youngest goal scorer in various competitions, one milestone after another. Brazilian football fans, who are notoriously hard to impress because their country has produced so many legends, started paying serious attention. But here's the part of the story that really changed his life forever. Europe was watching too. Scouts from the biggest clubs on the planet started flying to Brazil specifically to watch this teenager play. Not scout him as a maybe for the future. Scout him as a genuine, once-in-a-generation talent worth building a long-term plan around. And that's when Real Madrid entered the picture. The Real Madrid gamble. Now let's talk about why this transfer became one of the most talked about deals in modern football. Real Madrid, a club that historically buys proven Ballon d'Or winners, established superstars, world champions, turned their attention to a 16-year-old kid who had barely played 50 senior matches. On paper, it sounds insane. Pause. But Real Madrid's recruitment team had done their homework. They didn't just see a talented finisher, they saw a mentality, a player who, despite everything, the poverty, the pressure, the odds stacked against every kid from his background, never once looked afraid on the pitch. That fearlessness, that hunger, that's the exact quality that turns a good player into a legend at the highest level. In December 2022, when Endrick was still just 16 years old, Real Madrid agreed a deal with Palmeiras to sign him. But here's the fascinating part. He wouldn't actually join the club until he turned 18 in mid-2024. Real Madrid was willing to wait a year and a half for a teenager. Think about how rare that is. The transfer fee, including add-ons, reportedly reached around 60 million euros. A staggering number for a player who, at the time of the announcement, hadn't even become a full Brazilian international yet. Imagine being 16 and finding out the most famous football club on earth just paid tens of millions of dollars for you. For a kid who used to play barefoot on broken pavement in Taguatinga. But fame this early comes with a price. And that price is pressure unlike anything most human beings will ever experience. Pause. The weight of being the next one. Here's something people don't talk about enough when they discuss wonder kids like Endrick. The psychological weight. The moment Real Madrid's name gets attached to yours, the entire footballing world starts comparing you to legends. Ronaldo Nazario, Ronaldinho, Neymar, Vinicius Jr., who had already become a global superstar at the same club. Suddenly, a teenager who's still figuring out who he is as a person has to carry the expectations of an entire footballing nation on his shoulders. And it wasn't just outside pressure. Endrick still had to finish out his time at Palmeiras, playing every single match under a microscope, with every mistake dissected by pundits, and every good performance met with the same question over and over. Is he really worth what Real Madrid paid? That's an incredible amount of pressure for someone who, remember, grew up without financial security, without certainty, in a place where football wasn't just a passion, It was the only realistic path forward for his entire family. Pause. But what happened next actually surprised a lot of critics. Instead of cracking under the spotlight, Endrick kept performing. He earned his first call-up to the senior Brazilian national team in 2023, becoming one of the youngest players to represent the Seleção in the modern era. He scored on that stage too, proving once again that the pressure wasn't slowing him down. If anything, it seemed to fuel him. Saying goodbye to Palmeiras. Leaving Palmeiras wasn't just a business transaction for Endrick, it was emotional. This was the club that took a chance on a poor kid from Brasilia when nobody else had. This was the club where he became a household name in Brazil. This was home. In his final months there, Palmeiras fans knew exactly what was coming. Every match felt like a countdown. Every goal felt like both a celebration and a goodbye. There's something bittersweet about watching a young player you followed since he was 15, knowing that soon he'll be wearing white instead of the green and white of Palmeiras. Pause. And for Endrick himself, walking away from the club, the coaches, the fans who supported him through those early academy struggles, that wasn't easy either. This wasn't some cold, calculated business step for him. This was a kid saying goodbye to the people who believed in him before the world did. But ahead of him now was the biggest test of his young life. Real Madrid, the Santiago Bernabéu, a stage where hundreds of talented young players have arrived with huge reputations and quietly disappeared into obscurity because the pressure was simply too much. Would Endrick be different? Arriving at the Bernabéu, in July 2024, right after turning 18, Endrick officially joined Real Madrid, the club that had waited a year and a half for him, the club that bet tens of millions of euros on a promise. Walking into that dressing room for the first time, imagine that moment. Sharing a locker room with Vinicius Jr., Jude Bellingham, Kylian Mbappé, some of the most recognizable footballers on the planet, while carrying the story of a kid who once played barefoot on a Brasilia street. It's the kind of contrast that's almost impossible to wrap your head around, and it perfectly captures why his story resonates with so many people. Because it's not just a football story. It's a story about distance, how far someone can travel, not just in kilometers, but in circumstance, in identity, in possibility. But here's the thing about arriving at a club like Real Madrid as a teenager. Game time isn't guaranteed. Even for the most talented wonder kids, breaking into a squad filled with global superstars is brutally difficult. Endrick had to accept a role coming off the bench, fighting for minutes, proving himself all over again, this time against the best competition of his life. And true to form, he didn't shrink from it. Making an impact. Even in limited minutes, Endrick started doing what he'd always done, scoring important goals at crucial moments. He found the net in the Spanish Super Cup. He scored in La Liga. He scored in the Champions League, becoming one of the youngest Brazilians to ever do so for Real Madrid. Pause. Every time doubt started to creep in, every time critics said he was too raw, too young, not ready for this level, he responded the way he always had, ever since those cracked pitches back home. With a goal, with composure, with that same fire that got him noticed in the first place. But let's be honest about something. The story isn't finished, not even close. Endrick is still incredibly young. The path ahead of him, becoming a guaranteed starter, competing for major trophies, potentially becoming the face of Brazilian football in the years after this generation of superstars retires, that's still being written, and that's honestly what makes his story so gripping right now. We're not looking back at a finished legend, we're watching the early chapters of someone who could become one. What this story really means. So why does Endrick's journey matter so much? Beyond just football. Because it's proof of something bigger. It's proof that circumstances at birth don't have to define where you end up. This is a kid who didn't have boots that fit, whose family struggled with money, who grew up in a neighborhood where the odds were stacked against him in almost every measurable way. And yet, through an almost unbelievable combination of raw talent, relentless hunger, and a family that sacrificed everything to give him a shot, he ended up being the most expensive teenage gamble in the history of Real Madrid. Pause. That's not luck. That's not destiny either, honestly, despite that random name generator his parents used all those years ago. That's the result of a kid who refused to let poverty be the end of his story. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Not the transfer fee, not the records, not even the goals. It's the fact that somewhere in Taguatinga right now, there's another kid playing barefoot on a cracked pitch, dreaming the exact same dream Endrick once had. Pause. Whether or not the world ever learns that kid's name, Endrick's story proves it's possible. So next time you watch him step onto that pitch at the Bernabéu, wearing the white of Real Madrid, remember where he came from. Remember the barefoot boy on broken concrete. Remember that this was never guaranteed. Every single step of this journey was earned. Pause. If this story moved you, if it made you see football a little differently, hit that subscribe button because there are so many more stories like this one waiting to be told. Real stories, untold struggles behind the players you think you already know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.